Hello everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Inside SAP Business One Real Talk. Today we are going to talk about implementation challenges while implementing ERP for an SME industry, especially SME industry. So let's focus on that and what are the real challenges that we face in various aspects. So along with me again joining is Suchit Gadre. Suchit, what do you think about it?
Yes, Rakesh ji, thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I mean, many times we have seen over so many years of experience that there's so many stages during the project that challenges come up, what customers face right from your scope definition up to go live, post go live, and all as well. So yeah, let us talk one by one where we have seen what we have experienced over the years, the problems that come up during the project.
As we know, SAP B1 has been successfully implemented in so many industries and companies. At the same time, there are failures. If you look back based on our experience, right? So the one of the several key points that come to mind, and one of the prominent thing is the scope finalizations to begin with, right? So both the consulting partner as well as the management of the customer needs to focus on where are they in terms of implementing ERP. Are they replacing any legacy system with an ERP? Are they just coming out of Excel book into ERP? Are they already having an ERP and trying to enhance it with some additional features? So having absolute clear thought on what exactly are they trying to achieve, what are the key features, challenges, uh, having the functionality definition very clearly in terms of understanding the out of the box features versus too much of doing add-ons customizations and integrations. So that scope definition is very important to keep the project schedule, project budget, and project structure in focus. That's the very first key aspect for any successful ERP implementation.
Absolutely. I think we also need to talk about setting up the right expectations right from the beginning of the project. When we are trying to define the scope, we have seen customers going overboard with their requirements initially. But as experienced partners, we need to educate the customer that this is the right thing to do at this time. Later on, phase wise, you can have more solutions as per the requirements getting adapted into the ERP, which is SAP Business One in our case, obviously. So setting the right expectations so that not only the scope but the cost is also defined as per the scope. So both scope as well as cost do not go overboard.
Definitely, scope definition, finalization is very important depending on the industry, and the competency of the customer is also right in terms of knowledge base and what they are expecting out of the new system.
Correct.
The second important point coming back to the implementation in terms of strategy, and within the strategy, obviously we are implemented with ASAP methodology, which is more of a preparations to blueprinting to realization to final implementations. The key phase, as we always know, is the blueprinting phase, and that's the I would like to elaborate on blueprinting phase, whereby company should focus on the to be process, how these processes are going to be working operational in SAP Business One as an ERP. What are the actually doing a walkthrough in the system rough cut and seeing and then finalizing the blueprint process rather than defining it on a whiteboard, understanding what they are making decision and what are the things they are leaving out. The blueprint has to be thoroughly exhaustive in terms of literally descriptive enough with all the controls and features and bells and whistles expected in this, so that the development becomes very easy. Otherwise, there is always going to be back and forth on what is designed versus what is developed versus coming back to the design board. So blueprint finalization and a sign off, the key customer, team leads and management has to be involved in the business blueprint. You cannot leave it up to the actual users to define, because these are the this business process definition, we call it as part of blueprinting design, that literally designs and defines the efficiency, how your operations are going to work once ERP is done. So it is very important that all the key people get involved and sign off on that and agree on that after understanding the pros and cons of each decision. That's the main.
Correct. And there are lots of things involved in defining a business blueprint, right? As you said, the to be process needs to be defined. So you need to have clear cut indications, department wise, user wise, what they are expecting, what will happen in the system, what challenges they are currently facing, and how they will be overcome from the ERP software.
Right.
And that should is usually differentiated between the standard system and the additional customizations that need to be done. So that needs to be clearly defined in the business blueprint. And not only that, afterwards, whatever outputs are required from the software, your reports, your print layouts, all those things, your analytics, all that also needs to be defined. If there is any third party integration that needs to be done, that also needs to be defined within the business blueprint. That is why, as per SAP's SAP Business One Accelerated Implementation Plan, the AIP, the methodology that we talk about, when we start the project with the customer,
Right.
that AIP needs to be followed right up to the final word.
Right.
And that is why the first major part of this process is the business blueprinting. So if your business blueprint is uh, adequate, it is defined as per all the requirements, your future project implementation goes smoothly.
Yeah, I would like to add one more point in blueprinting is the customer should focus also on re-engineering the processes. So do not focus too much on my current way I am working it and try to replicate it. This is always a chance for a company to re-engineer, to improvise rather than implementing and just literally recycling their current processes and controls. Look at the industry best practices, look at the way SAP has recommended those processes to work, look at the partner expertise for those industries, and implement and re-engineer, and those re-engineered processes should be defined as part of blueprinting rather
Correct.
than sticking to the current processes.
Correct. Very, very interesting point you have mentioned here, sir, because adaptation is always a issue with SME customers, the users. Adaptation is always an issue. So there is should be a proper project management. So obviously, the next point that we come to here is key project management, right? Because the thing here is that if your project is defined well in different phases, it has key persons, key coordinators involving the decision makers at the right time. In case of any scope creep or anything like that, you need to have a proper project management in structure.
Right.
Where a project manager is involved from both sides, the customer as well as the partner implementing the ERP software. And obviously, process wise, there needs to be a stakeholder for each and every department, for finance, for production, for sales, for purchasing. There needs to be a key stakeholder from the customer side in each of these departments. Right. So project management and involving all these people at the right time to take the key decisions during crucial times during the project, so that whatever is required is fulfilled. And due to any scope creeps, the cost that a customer is incurring does not go out of hand. Right. So proper project management and structuring, a proper team structure. Right. From customer side should be in place. Sir, many times I have seen that customers don't have the right people in place. I mean, they have users to do data entries, but then
Right.
collectively, who is going to make the right decision? The director can't always be involved in each and every small thing during the entire project, which may go on for 3 months, 6 months, and all depending on the requirements, right? So you need to have key people influencing the project in the correct way.
Yeah, so I'm absolutely right. So there are two aspects here: defining the project team structure. We call it as a steering committee on the top, whereby directors from both partners and customer, uh, followed by the project managers and coordinators reporting to them, and followed by the individual teams with team leads for each processes like finance, accounting, manufacturing, inventory, purchase, sales, and then team members. Now the challenge that SME generally faces is this kind of formal structure and people are not available. The people who are available, they are generally not professional enough to look at it in terms of process perspective. And that is the reason the involvement of the directors or CEO or the owner is very important. If you want to successfully implement, they have to step in and at least be involved in the business blueprint design thoroughly to make sure the processes to be defined are meeting end-to-end objectives of the organizations, whereby generally the vision of that is limited to the owners in a lot of SM industries. SM is a wide definition, but we have seen sometimes even 200 crore company is managed by single-handedly by the owner, whereby there is little delegation of authority and decision making. And if that is the way they want to work, that is fine. But as long as then they should be involved in key decisions of the processes, so that it is kind of communicated from top down. This is what is required, and that's why the involvement of the director, owner, CEOs as part of steering committee, as part of key decision making, and as part of continuous monitoring. As you said, they cannot be involved in 6 months of day-to-day work, but then what is important is at least a steering committee meeting every once in 2 weeks and literally take a stock of what are the where do we stand, what is configured, what is tested, what is developed, what is open issues, and make a decision.
How much time it will take.
Right? So involvement of the top leader or the director or the owner. And SME is generally labeled an owner, as I said. Very few SMEs are professionally managed with key professionals having independent authorities to make a decision. So if that is the case, involvement of the owner is very important at all throughout the implementation.
Correct. Interesting point here, Rakesh ji, you have mentioned, because an ERP is purchased by an organization. What is the purpose to purchase an ERP?
Right.
To make the organization a process-driven
Absolutely
company.
right.
But we have seen that in spite of purchasing an ERP software, still the old mindset goes on.
Right.
They are still people-driven.
Right.
So that is where, as I mentioned earlier, adaptation needs to be done from across all people in the hierarchy.
Right.
We have seen many times business owners, they don't want to adapt or they don't want to delegate work, which you mentioned earlier, right? So that is a very key aspect, that people need to delegate their work. People need to have a proper team structure and hierarchy in place to manage the entire project accordingly.
So moving on to the next challenge that people have to always focus is the project manager or coordinator is always the key role in any project. Okay, so that's the kind of bridge between the management as a steering committee directors and the actual team leads and processes. The project manager is always the day-to-day looking into monitoring it, coordinating with various teams, and also if they are subject matter experts for any processes, that always helps. So role of project manager has to be defined from the consulting side as well as more importantly from the client side to make sure that there are no slip-ups, there are no scope creep, there are developments, there are issue resolutions and decision making. If not within that, at least taking it up to the higher level to address any resource issue, scope issue, budget issue, timeline issue, task completion, and always stick to the methodology that is accepted, which is kind of stage gate methodology, whereby unless for earlier stage is signed off and agreed, you do not move on to the next one.
Correct.
Because what happens is you keep things open in blueprinting, keep things open in development, you keep things open even in testing and training, and eventually it boils down to go live. Oh, we're discussing here, then this is what I need to do now.
Yeah.
So that the role of project manager is very important to make sure each and every stage is finalized and signed off and agreed.
Absolutely. And the project manager or the project coordinator is also responsible for having data readiness across all departments.
Right.
Your master data, your daily work data, your everything. The data that company has currently in their, say, different scattered systems, or say some basic accounting software, they need to gather that data and provide it to your SAP partner in the right way, so that the correct data is uploaded into the system when you actually start doing transactions. So your master data needs to be cleansed properly, right? Your transactional data, your in fact your also your opening balances, stock values, all that stock quantities, all that should be given in a proper manner, so that when after going live, when transactions start to happen in the new system, the base data should be correct. If it is not, we have seen over the years that it throws the project into a totally different direction. Right? So that data readiness should be there, and that is why, as you mentioned, the project manager or the project coordinator, they are the responsible person to get the data prepared at the right time when that phase for that data comes in.
See, the data readiness, right? So, in fact, in our experience, master data delay in terms of preparations and cleanliness is one of the major reasons for project delays. The processes are defined, your configuration is done, your infrastructure is ready, but your master data is not ready. And every time you take a sample master data and move on sample master data and test some limited processes, and when thoroughly entire master data comes, some of the key exception scenarios are not yet documented and not yet addressed because data was not ready. So it's very important as a challenge how to overcome is have a separate team lead for master data. The way we have team lead for finance, accounting, inventory, purchase, sale, and manufacturing, I would advocate having a separate team lead for master data from day one. Do not think like, okay, we'll think about master data after blueprinting is completed.
Right.
From day one, because especially majority of customers are kind of coming from legacy system where master data is corrupted, duplicate records, incomplete records, incorrect data. It requires thorough massaging, thorough gathering information from your partners, business partners, vendors, customers. So very important. Master data, and again, we are not talking about simple master data like item, vendor, customer. We are also talking about bill of material, complex structure. We are talking about quality control parameters. We are talking about cost centers, master data, and the entire restructuring, right? And also it's an opportunity to have some kind of intelligent numbering, external numbering, inbuilt controls. So, like you may not have earlier production planning, and now you need to have a complete new set of production planning parameters which you are not even aware. Those kind of challenges are better addressed at the beginning to avoid project delays.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the word testing in between. So that is a point that I would also like to stretch here. Testing is so important that even after you give initial training to all the users, testing is a thing that all users need to do. Obviously, we create a new test database for the customer. Before going live, there is always testing done. Users do all the transactions, which they will eventually do while after going live, right? So testing is so important so that the entire process flow gets tested. You can even have pilot testing initially, wherein you have one key user of all departments. They will do a process wise testing once, and then so that you are prepared when you go live.
Right.
You don't get surprises after going live that, oh, this was not tested. That is why I would like to stress here, because in fact, very recently we have seen a customer who asked us forcefully to go live without testing. We insisted that this is not the right way to do it, right? I mean, obviously, customer is the king at the end of the day, right? If they force us and they say, no, we will manage, then it's okay. It is up to them. We have to make our terms clear. We have to keep everything clear. But then if they insist that, okay, we want to go live without testing, it's fine. But as partners, it is our responsibility to educate the customer and tell them the right thing, that, okay, you need to test this first and then go live.
So one of the way to address that, right? So even we had that challenges, but then lately we made sure that unless UAT, which is user acceptance test, unless UAT is signed off, the configuration and development objects will not be moving to live. However, the project delay be. So that's the best method, whereby forcing customer to do the testing, have a user acceptance test, and sign off on that. And the methodology for testing that generally we propose, one is unit testing, whereby you do a simple test for individual transactions variations, and then end-to-end test. That process testing you're talking about, that's called integration testing. Unit testing, integration testing, then you do a key scenarios with the user acceptance test, UAT. And unless that is signed off, and we had tough time with some of the customers like you had, without them signing off on UAT, we just put our foot down, we are not going live. So insist on that, and that's in the interest of customer, that's in the interest of the consulting partner, to avoid glitches after going live. It's better to address those glitches before going live rather than
Correct.
after going live.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So
Also,
that's where the project manager role is very important.
correct. And you may have experience, which we have also, that at times during the project, customers come up with new requirements, something different than what was initially agreed upon, or something new altogether. So, sir, how do you manage that? I mean, I would like to have your perspective on that.
So again, the change management that we call about, right? So there are two aspects of this change management. One is the thing that you're asking about new requirements, whether those change requests we call it. So change requests, it has to be addressed in terms of is it affecting the project scope, is it affecting the budget, is it affecting the timeline, and most importantly, is it a showstopper or is it just a bells and whistles kind of optional feature they're asking for? So we always recommend that unless it's a showstopper, do not change the scope. It can always be added later on. If those requirements can be managed with some simple validations or with simple reporting, then do not try to overdo it. So that's the always that call you have to make, because there is no point in delaying the entire project schedule, having more budget, having more testing impact everything, and always be frank with the customer, because each and every requirement are not always a showstopper. Sometimes customer always says this is important, this is important.
Correct.
You have to be telling the customer and be honest about it, whether, because obviously core processes have been addressed during blueprinting, have been configured, have been discussed, and if some additional requirement come, it has to be really critically analyzed whether it's a showstopper versus the feature they're asking for.
Again, educating the customer here is very important.
Yes.
When they come up with such requirements, based on our experience, we need to tell them that this is what will happen if you do this right now. And obviously, there is a scope creep and new things are coming up, but ultimately, there is a cost implication also.
Absolutely.
For these new things. We have to tell the customer that this is the cost you will have to incur. If a new cost is getting added, the customer is going over their budget. If the budget is getting overshoot, it ultimately boils down to what was decided initially, what cost was agreed, and now why this new requirement and why the extra budget. So that is why we need to tell the customer that stick to this, do this first. Then in the next phase, 3 or 6 months down the line, you can go to the next phase, have these new requirements, and then spending 10 lakh rupees over a year versus spending 10 lakh in one shot.
Right.
You can understand the difference as a business owner.
The next point I would like to discuss is the change management, in terms of the change management of the people, in terms of making sure they're adapting to the new processes. Once your key project people have been told to what to do, but when you roll it out to the end users, you always find it a resistance. So that resistance is the change management has to be communicated from the top, saying our new ERP is coming, new processes are coming, and either it can be a directive or taking them in confidence. So that's why the message has to come from the top, that these are the changes and you have to adapt to the new one to reduce the resistance. People always are going to resist to the change. They're used to legacy system, they're used to doing certain thing in Excel with the freedom and controls that they had, or lack of control that they had, and they would like to enjoy the lack of control. So change management in terms of people and in terms of adapting to the new processes. That's the thing,
Right.
very important for, and that's where the owner, directors, and messaging from them saying in terms of the moment they are involved in the process, it shows the importance of the project. It automatically gets communicated. You better fall in line, otherwise you are out.
So at the end of the day, it is all about accountability. And that is a key reason why business owners bring in ERPs in
Right.
their
Right.
work environment. We want people to be held accountable to what they are doing, what they are working. If they have made any mistake,
Right.
many a times KPIs and KRAs are defined based on the work they do in an ERP.
Right.
We have seen customers do that in their environment. So yeah, holding people accountable for their work. People who don't have ERP, organizations who don't have ERP softwares, who don't have whatever, not only SAP Business One, but any other ERP. We have seen that there is a lot of uh, cost that customer is bleeding. They are losing money over the so many years, where they could have easily plugged in by having an ERP in place. Right? So that is a very key factor, accountability of all users.
You mentioned words like KPIs, right? So one of the important word came to my mind, starting with K, is KISS.
Okay, what is KISS?
Okay, so it's KISS, which is elaborated as keep it simple, stupid.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So that's the buzzword I heard about 30 years back in my first ERP implementation, whereby it was a very good learning that don't go overboard. Okay. So the real meaning of KISS, keep it simple and stupid. It may sound stupid, but keep it simple. That's the meaning. It's not literal sense stupid, but keep it simple so that you're not going overboard with the controls, you're not going overboard with the reporting and features and functionality. Also look at where you are coming from. Like I had one customer who was coming literally from Excel into an ERP, and they were very enthusiastic about putting controls in the system. Yes, very good. They literally activated approval process for 10 different documents to begin with, whereas people are absolutely not used to any control. And the management was excited to put heavy controls. And the very first week after go live, literally 9 out of those 10 documents have to be removed from approval process because people found it difficult. So don't make it tedious, don't make it overboard, don't make it unnecessarily cumbersome for people not to adapt to it unless it's a showstopper, unless it's a really process requirement control. Don't try to configure, don't try to, just because the features are available in the system free of charge.
Right.
Don't try to think it's a free of charge. Let me try to implement. Anyway, I don't have to pay anything extra to the consultant.
Right.
Let's activate that feature, right?
Right.
Don't try to complement it. So complicate the entire thing. So keep it simple. That's the buzzword over here, whereby stick to the process, stick to your key requirements, and again the phase wise optimizations and scalable and making it controls more and more bells and whistles afterwards. Success of first ERP live with the core requirement of processes, with the re-engineering, that is the main objective, and that's why KISS, keep the processes simple and stupid.
Right. So it actually summarizes the entire episode.
Right.
Where we talk about the ERP implementation challenges, but you just need to keep it simple.
Right.
Right. Because we have talked about all these challenges, but I would like to assure the viewers that it does not mean that smaller organizations with lesser users cannot adapt an ERP. We have customers, I'm sure you will also have customers with only 4 users, 5 users, 2 users as well. So at the end of the day, if you keep it simple, if you keep it in an appropriate way, involving the right persons at the right time, key decision maker, your data preparedness, these are small things which can be managed even by a couple of people in the organization, but they have to be done in the right way. So I would like to summarize here, sir, again, that yeah, keep it simple, stupid. This is what
Absolutely.
the entire episode
Absolutely.
or we just talked about.
Right. So to make
Thank
the
you.
ERP implementation success, keep it simple. That's the message over here. We hope you have enjoyed the session. See you in the next episode.
See you
Thank very
again
much.
next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.